Everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. All right, did I record? I think I did. Yep. Okay, so last week we were working on a couple sections that had to do with the idea I'm never upset for the reason I think. And I'm not sure any of us really get that idea. It's a nice idea, but what do you mean? I'm never upset for the reason I think. And that literally what Jesus is trying to help us understand is that no matter what your upset is, and we all know there's like bazillions of upsets that can occur in our lives, whether it's physical pain, I lost my job, somebody's not nice to me, my kids don't do what I would want them to do, you name it, the list goes on for pretty much ever. But then Jesus is asking us to apply this thought to everything that does happen in our life and in our experiences. So I thought, I had the thought this morning of that little phrase that talks about somebody's making noise. Okay. That little comment that we're very familiar with, or most of us are familiar with, in which I will read right now. Let us return the dream he gave away unto the dreamer who perceives the dream as separate from himself and done to him. In other words, what appears to be done on the outside in the world doesn't appear to be coming from me. Jesus goes on to say, into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. So we had this tiny mad idea. The tiny mad idea was, gosh, I wonder what it would be if I was God. And why would the Son of God want to be God? Very good reason. Because God gave the Son everything that he was, peace and joy, eternity, Christ, innocence, and that we were all the same. The only thing that was not given to us from God, all these wonderful other attributes, beautiful as they may be, the only thing that was not given was that we could be the creator. The Son of God thought, I want to do that. Just like little kids, I want to do it my way. When he did, we then got to be the creator. We're on the throne. We kicked God off. We're on the throne. But now there's a me and a God. And instead of love and peace and joy, connection and oneness, we get guilt, sin and fear, death, projection, indifference. And we leave all of those other things behind. Now, they haven't gone anywhere. Much like if I flip a coin and it lands on heads, we know tails is underneath. But while we're focusing on heads or the belief in separation, we do not experience the opposite, which is the belief in oneness. So we thought we were going to separate, take all the attributes of God, and we were going to have everything work out just swell. Instead, when we separated, we left all the things that God gave us behind, and we aligned with just the opposite of that. So the next little line in that little paragraph says, in his forgetting, did the thought become a serious idea and possible of both accomplishment and real effects. So once we took that seriously, we believed we separated, we then believed that everything from then on was real, and everything before that no longer literally exists. All right. So with that, I'm on my own. Much like the umbilical cord in a spaceship, if somebody cut that cord and went into the total tear of blackness and nothing to attach to, it's a pretty rough exchange. But because we really believe we did something to God, which was kill him off so we could exist, we were afraid to go back to the love of God. So the way we solved the problem was we projected guilt, sin, and fear into the world so that I would believe I'm an innocent victim and something or someone else would be the problem. So if we go back to workbook lesson number 5, paragraph 1, if you want to look in there, you're welcome to. The very first line is very telling. Okay, so this idea, like the preceding one, can be used with any person, situation, or event you think is causing you pain. Apply it specifically to whatever you believe is the cause of your upset, using the description of the feeling in whatever term seems accurate to you. The upset may seem to be fear, worry, depression, anxiety, anger, hatred, jealousy, or any number of forms, all of which will be perceived as different. This is not true. However, until you learn that form does not matter, each form becomes a proper subject for the exercise for the day. Applying the same idea to each of them separately is the first step in ultimately recognizing that they are all the same. All right, so basically, if we go back to the into eternity, where all is one, they're crept a tiny man idea, and the idea that in his forgetting did the thought become a serious idea and possible of both accomplishment and real effects. So now we seemingly have these real effects within the world, and Jesus is asking us to take whatever specific form that your seeming attack comes from, and then bring that to him. You can use any person, situation, or event you think is causing you pain. Although you have to be aware of what causes you pain. And initially, oftentimes the things that cause you pain will be the ones that are fairly pertinent in your life, pretty obvious. But literally, we're not aware that pretty much everything is causing us pain, because everything is a representation of the effect of having chosen for separation instead of alignment with oneness. Here she is. So again, this idea of choosing to bring everything to him, not just 9/11 or this horrible thing happened or my boss did this, but to literally any moment that you are not at peace, to bring it to him. Apply it specifically to whatever you believe is the cause of your upset, using the description of the feeling in whatever term seems accurate to you. So he's inviting us to start with exactly how you feel, how you're experiencing whatever it is that is occurring. If I'm in terror, if I'm afraid, if I'm anxious, if I'm irritated, if I'm upset, whatever deal is going on, he's asking us to start by acknowledging it and describing it. Don't push it under the carpet and go, that's an illusion. I'm not going to let that bother me. You look at it, you become aware of it, you describe it, you explain it, and even sit with it sometimes, scream and yell at it for a while, okay? The upset may seem to be fear, worry, depression, anxiety, anger, hatred, jealousy, or any number of forms, all of which will be perceived as different. Today I come in and my problem is this. The next day I come in, the problem is this. The next day it's something over here. And as we all know, there's an endless supply of the train going through your living room of the next thing that takes your peace away and upsets you, okay? And so often we will have maybe, let's say, a major issue going on in your life, and you finally take a sigh of relief because that one seems to have gone in the background, and then bam, the next morning, there's something else on your doorstep. Yeah.
Yes, that I find that you want to be upset.
Well, ultimately, that's
Because-
correct.
Because sometimes my wife can say something, or anybody can say something, makes me upset, the next day they say the same thing.
That
it
is
doesn't
correct.
mean nothing.
That is
So,
absolutely,
coming from me.
that is a wonderful awareness, Bob, and absolutely correct. Yes. Yeah. But the ones that we catch, we have an opportunity to work with. And as he's saying here, to understand that no matter what the form appears to be, they're not true, because the problem isn't the form. The problem is never the form. The problem is the cause of the form. And so he's saying, acknowledge what it is that's going on, acknowledge that that seems to be what's triggering you to be upset. But then eventually we're going to bring it up here, and then we'll recognize it's not really the form. And as this said, in his forgetting, did the thought become a serious idea and possible of both accomplishment and real effects? Yeah, Lisa? Do you have something?
Oh, yeah, this is just guilt that's rising to the surface. It's
Absolutely.
it's the separation between us and God.
Yep.
And Jesus is saying, bring it to me.
Hmm.
Bring this to the altar, bring it to me.
Right.
And I will heal it for you.
Yep.
And it's through the process of forgiveness that this is healed. And if that means getting on your hands and knees and tears running down your face with whatever this problem is, he's saying, bring it to me. He's got this bulldozer that's just pushing all that through for us. And he is going to heal this for us.
Yep.
But we have to be sincere when we bring this problem to Jesus and ask for him.
Yep. And we have to bring the problem to him, which means I have to recognize I have a problem as well. As I said before, obviously there's some major big ones, and those are usually the ones that get our attention. But literally this is saying, if you're not at peace, big, small, or in between, this is an opportunity, as Lisa was saying, to bring it to him, and he'll take care of it. And he's also saying over and over in the course, you can't figure it out because you don't even know what the problem is. If you're, that old story of the guy that I think he loses a ring or something, and he goes out in the front yard because it's nighttime, and he's looking under the light, and somebody comes by and said, well, what you looking for? He said, my ring. He said, well, where'd you lose it? He said, in the house. He said, what are you doing out here? Because there's a light out here. It's like, if we're trying to solve the problem where the problem isn't, there's no way we can find the answer to it. And literally, that's what Jesus is saying. You don't know what the problem is, guys. This camouflage of projecting it out into the world so it appears to be in the world was done to keep us stuck here. And it's never going to solve the problem, because the problem doesn't lie here, it lies here.
Hard to get off the throne. That's the problem. If it had just been a game, like a game, let's see, I'm gonna sit on the throne and then do that, which is really what we
Already said, yeah.
I guess I feel like that more or less now, that more times that it's like a game, that I'm on the throne and not working. Okay, Jesus, I'm off the throne now. Okay, who's gonna sit on? I mean, it's kind of like playing musical throne.
Yep.
Who's on there now? And
Exactly.
So if it was a game, which that would make you laugh if it was a game.
Exactly. And if, that section we read, into eternity where all was one, there crept a tiny mad idea which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. This whole turnaround is to begin to observe the insanity of the world and smile at it a little bit more instead of being terrorized by it.
So it's not being on the throne, it's taking it seriously?
Well, when we stepped on the throne, we said, this is serious. I'm in control. God is gone. I got this taken care of, and I'll take care of everything from here on. Okay. But he keeps saying, but this is not true. And we don't believe it yet because, tomorrow or just getting in your car on the way home, something will come up and your immediate reaction will be so-and-so did this to me. This happened to me. That situation occurred to me. And we're often running. And he's saying, do your best to stop, bring it back and say, whoa, wait a minute, where are we going with this? If I'm trying to figure it out, which we're also very good at, then I'm not inviting him in. I can't let the space of emptiness be if I filled it up with all my stuff.
Couldn't you say also that this tiny mad idea was like a one-time thing, but we keep using the past to remember in that respect, using the past, and we keep having the tiny mad idea.
Correct.
Over and over again. So
Correct.
it's not like and the tiny just mad idea is that this is serious. I'm done with this. I need something different, blah, blah, blah. So
Well,
that's
it
the
is
tiny mad idea.
true that it describes the tiny mad idea at that one moment. But the deal is, and a lot of people have said, well, I don't remember that moment, so what good is that going to do to me? But the answer to that is kind of what you were saying, Andrea. We keep repeating that tiny mad idea by accepting what the world appears to be showing us and taking it seriously over and over and over again.
Yes, it's a big thing when the tiny mad idea put you in charge. It's a big deal when you're not in charge. And that's like
Very.
the part where you have to have enough tools or enough question, or at least one question to ask yourself, what am I doing? And I guess if I don't know what I'm doing, if I just think I'm living the best I can, and I don't
Yep.
see I have any kind of other way to get away from this, let's say that's just the way it goes,
Yep.
that kind of stuff, then you're
Yep.
stuck. But otherwise it could be I guess it could be more fun.
Well, it will definitely be a lot more fun.
Some of the things that, that happen. There's a woodpecker that decided to so bananas in my backyard, and it has that, like Woody Woodpecker did that. Anyway, the bird literally goes through something like that every 5 minutes.
Yep.
And I hear it.
Yep.
And I go, oh. And I go, darn it. Then I go, oh, it's just a woodpecker.
But you're also saying that we don't need God, right?
Oh, yes, sirree.
We're basically saying we don't.
I am on my own and I'm in charge. And I think
But
it was
do we still recognize that there's still a God because we destroyed God at
Well,
the same time?
true.
Made up again.
Made up.
We made up a God that is the God of the ego that goes along with us, because the real God, as the Course explains in a real cute little area, I think it's cute anyways, where it says, we asked a special favor of God and he refused to give it to us, which was, the favor was, look at me, God, aren't I wonderful that I made my own world? But he doesn't even know we did it. That's the real God. Now, the God of the ego is got all the attributes as the Son of God does, because it's that God is really a projection coming from the mind of the ego. So the only attributes that
But
God
you're
could have.
saying two things. That's
Okay.
what's a little confusing.
Okay,
You're saying on one hand, you turned your back on God.
correct.
On another hand, you destroyed God because you went from oneness into.
Okay, but when we turned our back on God, we did destroy God, because it's either one or two.
But God's still living.
Okay, true. But remember, this is a dream. It has no effect on what's real, but within the dream, I know nothing of the God of one any longer. So I've killed it off in my awareness. I didn't kill it off in reality.
Okay.
Okay,
That's the remember not to laugh.
correct. We took it seriously.
I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Right. And be very aware that it's the ego's job, basically, because we have programmed the ego this way to let's stay in the world. And let me show you the ways that I can pull that off. And so what are the ways that in each one of your lives, you basically say or think, well, God can't help me with this one. This one's too big for that. Or we don't immediately go to God to ask for help because we're too busy running around taking care of it on our own.
And then
But-
nothing's funny.
And then nothing is funny. There's the point I was going to get to. Yes. Nothing's funny.
Everything is so serious.
Correct.
Serious as a heart attacker.
Yes, correct. And that's when we need to call on God the most, but we're less likely to do because we're so busy caught up in the tailspin of the insanity of whatever particular issue shows up. But if we can stop and turn that around and say, you know, I am angry for such and such a reason, but you're telling me there's another way, we can begin to turn that ship around and align more with
And
part of your experience. Oh, sorry, I don't know what that was, of that experience, get your attention here, of that experience. And then slowly we begin to align more and more with what is truth, and stuff from over here doesn't call us quite so loud or very as long. But that is a process because we chose this game. We wanted to be in charge. We bought the package. And the universe is going to continue to send you the packages that we ordered. And what did we order? Some form of chaos, conflict, irritation, upset, duality, because we chose duality instead of oneness.
Just remember just about the wood chuck very briefly. When there was a problem and my neighbor was explaining it to me. Her bottom line was, it's hard to get rid of them, so you have to shoot them. And I thought, that's how we operate.
Yep.
Everything that's in our way, we have to shoot it.
Yep.
And I mean, how we laugh, and you laugh about it, but you're darn serious.
Yes,
That's the deal. You might laugh and say, oh, well, you have to shoot it, and you go, ha, ha, ha. But you really mean it, because you can't think of any other way to get loose from it. Get to feel
Right.
peaceful or to get happy again.
right.
Like if it wasn't for those things.
in your life, one
Well,
or the other.
Right, and be aware in duality, it is about kill or be killed, okay? The Course is very adamant with the word usage. It's not just, I don't like you, it's kill or be killed. And that's part of the package that we got when we chose for the opposite of what love is. And most of us don't really want to look at that it is really kill or be killed. If you're driving along in your car and somebody tries to cut you off, I'm sorry to say, whether you like to admit it or not, want to kill that person at that instant. And it's not a thinking thing. My life is threatened. I'm going to get you. That's what we need. That's what Jesus is asking us to really look at. This is the world we chose when we chose for separation instead of oneness. In oneness, there's only love. There isn't another, keep remembering in oneness, there isn't another to upset or irritate me or cause me pain. There's only one. It is only in a dualistic experience that could possibly have ever been put into place. And this is what we've accepted and known all our lives. So the Course comes along and says, oh, there's really only one. Come on over here. You're going to like it a lot. And you go, but wait a minute, this is happening in my life. And that's terrible. And that's how dare that person do this to me? My body's falling apart. Whatever it happens to be, what do I need God for? I'm too busy over here doing my stuff. Okay. And as you said, Andrea, it's not funny when I believe it's real. And we do believe it's real. That's a very big challenge for most of us.
It has the hold of us in a chokehold.
It's got a chokehold, no question about it.
Then if you get a breath in between there, then.
Right. But the question with the Course is saying, I want you to, Jesus is saying, this is what you set up, guys. This is your experience. This will continue to be your experience as long as you align with this. What's the undoing, the way out, the way we find another way is to realize that's what we set up. And when we're ready, stop and get off the throne. Let Jesus back on where he belongs. And he'll show you love and peace and joy and connection, which is your true reality. But you can't have, both of you can't be sitting here. This requires me to take whatever my story is today and throw it in the garbage for a few minutes and then let him show us the answer of what really is going on.
Then it's like you're on the throne with it.
Well, you're on the throne with him because you are him. Okay? Versus what we believe we are, which is the opposite of him. And when we believe that we are the opposite, and how do I know I believe I'm the opposite? Is there something less than peace in my experience, which is pretty much 24 hours a day. Okay, so we have many opportunities to practice. And okay, so let's say you're over here and something really horrific happens in your life that you're not taking, you know, with just you're really upset about it. That's heavy. That's, you know, super duper, but it's a wonderful opportunity for you to keep choosing and stop and go, wait a minute, the Holy Spirit, you know, this darn blue book keeps telling me I'm here because this is what I want. You keep telling me if I drop it and show and invite you in, you'll show me a different way. But what happens for a lot of people is, let's say, I don't know, whatever, some issue in your life and you're experiencing this, you'll ask for help. You flip this over, but nothing happens in the way you think it should happen. So what do? Oh, this course doesn't work. This is not working out too well. But then something else happens and you try it again and you try it again eventually. But what he's saying is, if you have difficulty and you let go of the difficulty after you name it and experience it and make sure you know that it's what's going on, that you stop and you go, wait, show me. But you do that consistently every time something or someone or whatever upsets you, so that this becomes your go-to instead of guilt and fear and judgment and attack. Okay, totally different storyline. Yeah, Lisa, did you have something?
Yeah, you were talking about this is all oneness.
Yep.
But yeah, we believe that there's ego. We believe that
Oh.
we're separated from God. That's what we believe.
Mhm.
We have to let go of that belief.
Mhm.
As long as we have that belief, we have a split mind.
Correct.
And as Ken Watnick said, we have to develop a right-minded use for split mind.
Mhm.
And we have to look at that ego thought system and make a choice and say, it's not serving me, I don't want it.
Absolutely.
And things are always going to crop up in our life. There are always going to be difficulties. And,
Yep.
you know, I think as we study this course, we get used to that. And then we can just, when something happens, we can just say, oh, it's just part of the ego separation. And it's coming from my mind. It's guilt and separation that I believe it's a projection. Just like everyone in this room.
Yep.
You know, all of this is a projection coming from our mind.
Yep.
We don't have husbands, we don't have wives, we
Nope.
don't have grandchildren, we don't have anything. All of it is a projection made up from our mind, and that is, it's really a hard concept.
Yep.
To wrap our heads around, you know, and to wrap our mind around. And you know, for myself, whenever something comes up in the world, a problem, you know, it's like, okay, all right, ego, give it your best shot. You know, I've got Jesus on my side, and now I
Yep.
believe this. And automatically, I've just gone to the point of forgiveness, of saying, I'm never upset for the reason I think, and therefore, Holy Spirit, show me the miracle that will shift my perception.
Right.
And that's my little story, my line that I say.
Yep.
Whenever something comes up that takes that piece away from my mind. Because that's what this is about. This is about peace of mind.
Yep.
And nothing else.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. So he goes on to say, however, until you learn that form does not matter, because it doesn't matter what the situation or significance of the seeming upset is, whether someone's bombing my house or I cracked my fingernail, if it takes my peace away, they're all identical. Because as Lisa was saying, if you think about this as the guilt, sin, and fear, I'll put a face on it and it'll be whatever the specific is, but the specific is not the problem. It's that I believe in separation. So applying the same idea to each of them separately is the first step in ultimately recognizing that they are all the same. Well, that's going to take some practice for most of us to come to the point where we realize that they're all the same. And as you progress into the process of practicing, it'll simply be, oh, that's right, I must have chosen wrongly help. But initially, it's going to take some priming of the pump, I guess you could say, to get to the point where we really get to that situation where everything applies to what this is saying. When using the idea for today for a specific perceived cause of an upset in any form, use both the name of the form in which you see the upset and the cause which you ascribe to it. For example, I am not angry at blank for the reason I think. So take whatever specific issue is hot and heavy in your life at this moment and apply it to this line. I'm not afraid of blank for the reason I think. And this is not a magic wand. I wish it was. I wish we could do this one little prayer and poof, everything in our lives that upsets us or irritates us will go away. But as Lisa was saying, this is a belief system, and it's a belief system we have adhered to for eons of time. So you're not going to just take that well ingrained, it's like the grooves on a record. It just, the needle finds that place and it just keeps going around and around and around. We have to literally lift up that needle and place it somewhere else. But each time we're doing that, the patterning of the old way is being reestablished in a new way. All right, so I think, yes.
Over the winter, I had mice in my garage, and they were getting into my car, and building a nest and knocking out my heat and screwing up all my controls. So I set the trap. I think I caught about 4 or 5 mice. But, I had to bring the car in for service, and then they had to take the nest out. They showed me the problem, and then 3 months later, I had the same problem again. There's the nest.
Yep.
And so clearly, this is coming back to reinforce separation, that I believe in separation.
Absolutely.
And I believe this ego is real.
Absolutely.
And, you can't, all I can do is laugh at it.
Yep.
Is it an irritation? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I could look at it like that. But I can't measure it against anything else. I can't measure that against car crash.
Right.
Or broken fingernail. This course is saying that it's all the same.
The same.
And you just realize that this is a projection coming from me. I created this. This is in the script.
Yep.
And, it's just part of that forgiveness opportunity.
Yep.
And sometimes that it's part of the script and you're like, oh, here.
Yep.
Don't mess it
Yep.
up.
Yep.
And all that it's not real. All that, like, you know what? Off a minute.
Yep.
I know it's a part of the script. Past that point, I don't get angry like that anymore. Initially, I think I did, because I didn't understand the metaphysics
Sure.
behind it. And
Yep.
now it's just, okay, automatically take it to the Holy Spirit. It's a forgiveness process.
Yep.
And I have that script, that little line that I say, and it's just gone.
Yep.
Because Jesus is going to take that from me and he reinterprets all that anger and it's just gone.
What happened to mice?
Oh,
You're going.
yeah, I learned to take steel wool and block the whole bottom of the garage door and with peppermint oil, cotton balls in my dryer box. So that's how I keep them.
Take a
Yep.
sheet of balance, the dryer sheet, From a couple places in the engine.
Well, the peppermint oil and cotton balls.
Right. All right, so we're going to turn to workbook 104, paragraph 2, if anybody wants to read along. Workbook 104, paragraph 2,
Is that lesson or page?
workbook lesson.
Thank you.
Yep. No problem. Okay, paragraph 2. Today we would remove all meaningless and self-made gifts which we have placed upon the altar where God's gifts belong. His are the gifts that are our own in truth. His are the gifts we inherited before time was, and that will still be ours when time has passed into eternity. His are the gifts that are within us now, for they are timeless, and we need not wait to have them. They belong to us today, which is similar to what some of the conversation we've already had today. Today, we would remove all meaningless self-made gifts. Again, when we choose for the separation, everything that the Son of God does, according to the course, is called made. It's not created. It is different than the creation of truth. So when he says, today we would remove all meaningless and self-made gifts, we made them as gifts because we wanted to be separated from the love of God. So to the ego, they are gifts and they are self-made, which we have placed upon the holy altar where God's gifts belong. So again, if you think about the throne as the holy altar, we have placed them on the altar, but when we did that, we cannot experience God's gifts. Again, one or the other, never do they meet. This line down the middle here separates these two. They're mutually exclusive, cannot be entered at the same time. It's one or the other. Now, obviously, you may choose one more frequently, which will result in the effects of that choice or this choice, depending on which one you choose. But in any given moment, it's one or the other unequivocally. His are the gifts that are your own in truth. Again, what God gave us was everything he had. And again, he gave us everything he has. The only thing we don't have, or he didn't give us, was the ability to create. And that's where the problem came in. We wanted to do it on our own. We wanted to be God. We wanted to be in charge. We wanted to be an individual, special, and different. We got what we wanted. How do you like it?
You're a self,
You're a self, and boy, aren't you important.
and nobody likes being nothing.
And nobody likes being nothing after we got used to being a something.
That's
Yes.
right.
Not funny.
Not funny. Yeah. His,
The insanity is how do you separate one from one?
well, we obviously thought we could, and we have accepted the lie and have lived the lie. And while I'm living the lie, I believe it's true, even though it is impossible. So his are the gifts that we inherited before time was. So they were automatically given to the Father or to the Son from the Father, and will still be ours when time has passed into eternity. When we no longer believe in time and space and the reality of separation, those gifts are automatically ours. So what do we need to do? Become aware of what we put in front of that so that we can get to the point where we heal. His are the gifts that are within us now, for they are timeless. And as we were talking before, the gifts of God have not gone anywhere. Just like if I flip the coin and the head show, tails is there, I just can't experience it as long as I am playing and looking only on the head side. And we need not wait to have them. They belong to us today. But again, if you had the coin on the floor and it was showing heads, you would have to pick up the coin and turn it over. Just like we have to take what we've chosen and turn it over and align with oneness, which is falling off here. We'll have to get a little glue. We have to drop the other and align with this one. And automatically truth will rise to the surface because you've gotten or removed the block to the awareness of love that was there all the time. Therefore, we choose to have them now and know in choosing them in place of what we made, we but unite our will with God's will and recognize the same as being one. Well, I don't need to go into longer. Well, and he's asking us to say, I seek but what belongs to me in truth and joy and peace are my inheritance. But again, I can't open the door to that as long as I'm holding the story of insanity. And you know, what do we do? I want to take my upset, hold my upset dearly and say, God, I want only you. But we haven't let go of the thing that we're holding on to so dearly. And you can't have them both. You start with the recognition of what the issue or problem is and recognize that this is what I put here because this is what I wanted to affirm the separation. But now I don't want to play that game any longer. Then lay aside the conflicts of the world that offer other gifts and other goals made of illusions, witnessed by them and sought for only in the world of dreams. So do I want the world of dreams to run my show, or do I want the answer of the Holy Spirit to run my show? All this we lay aside and seek instead that which is truly ours as we ask to recognize what God has given us. And listen to those words. And this we lay aside. Again, we need to come to the point where we lay aside what my experience is. And we were talking before, we don't remember choosing to separate from the love of God. We sure do have an experience of what the effects of that choice look like, right? Look at your world. Is it peaceful? Is it loving? Is it connected? Is it oneness? If it's not, it's representing what we chose instead. Okay. All right. We are going to, well, most of you probably don't have the Song of Prayer with you, but I'm going to read a couple things from there. All right. So the Song of Prayer, the secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. In this Song of Prayer, but there's so many different volumes of it, but I can tell you it is Song of Prayer 1, 1, 4, 1, 7, 11. I don't know if that helps you at all. So the secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then forgive it. Also, in the same way, in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them and let them go into God's hands. Therefore, they become your gifts to Him, for they tell Him that you would have no gods before Him, no love but His. What could His answer be but your remembrance of Him? Can this be traded for a bit of trifling advice about a problem of an instant's duration? God answers only for eternity, but still all little answers are contained in this. So Jesus is saying here, true prayer is, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the answer is. Help. What we normally do when we're praying is, I got this problem. I want you to give me a solution that will turn out in a way where Marianne is happy with the choice because Marianne already has a preconceived idea of what the choice is. Don't you agree with me, God? And that's not what true prayer is. And
Well, but I do know what the problem is.
well,
I
if you,
chose wrong.
well, if you come to the point where you know that you chose
Right.
wrong, then that's different. But normally when people are, trying to solve a problem in the world, they want a specific answer. Yeah. All right, so to ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then forgive it. And this is a tricky little concept in the course, a very significant but a rather tricky one. Because what we have done with the way we set the illusion up is it appears there's a problem that somebody else has caused that has nothing to do with me. And I'm going to be a good little spiritual Course in Miracles student or Christian or whatever religion I happen to be working with at the time. And I'm going to be a better person and forgive that person, which the Course says, because it's not about what that other person did. It's about the fact that you chose for separation and you projected the guilt, sin, and fear in that person. And then you, the individual, blame that person for whatever is going on. So the real problem or the real solution is to go to the cause, which is I chose wrongly and I can now choose differently. But if I'm forgiving the person for what they did to me, I'm really just back down here, not really coming to the highest form of healing that the Course has to offer.
You're separating more.
Well, you're separating more and you're not accomplishing anything that's going to make a difference. You've just said, I'm sorry that you're an idiot. Well, this is what on some level we're probably mostly doing. I forgive you because you're an idiot because I'm a better person than you. And that's not forgiveness. In fact, the Course even goes so far as to say that's forgiveness to destroy, because it is not a form of love. When you forgive the part of your mind that has chosen to separate and you recognize, oh, I made a mistake and I don't wish to choose that any longer. That's true forgiveness from the perspective of the Course. Totally different than what most of us understand forgiveness to be in the world.
To point out the problem to that person is to separate.
Correct. And again, you start there, okay? Obviously, if you're going along, everything's fine, and somebody does something, and now, unequivocally in our world, it appears that person did or said something, and it's upset me, okay? No brainer, okay? But if we step back further and realize I've projected that into my brother, so where does the real problem lie? Does it lie in my brother, or does it lie in the part of my mind that has chosen to make my brother the bad guy so that I could look like the good guy? And if I forgive them with words or thoughts, first of all, I don't know about the rest of you, but I tried that a whole lot growing up, trying to be a good little Catholic girl, and it never worked. Something was missing in that formula. And now I understand that the reason it never worked is because the formula was not set up on the right foundation. It was set up on, I'm going to be a good little girl and forgive you, but it didn't really work because they really weren't the problem. And if we have to understand, this is a projector, okay? This is where the film of the separation has been placed. If I kick Jason out of my dream for now, all that's going to happen is I'm going to find something else to project onto, because the problem is the film in the projector. It is not the character on the dream of the individual screen as it appears to be.
But that's also true from a metaphysics perspective
Correct.
as well.
Yep.
If you look at metaphysics,
Correct.
you reinforce exactly what you just said.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you have to start with that.
Yes,
That's
start
what
with,
starts
yes,
with
I
the
appear to have been
problem.
triggered by what A, B, C, D.
Right.
Right, absolutely. Start with that, sit with it, process through the anger or the upset or whatever it is. But when your mind finally settles down and you remember the principles of the Course, oh, wait a minute. He keeps harping about that silly thing that I'm not really upset for the reason I think. Well, what the heck's going on? Then you take the steps to the possibility of real healing. As long as it's happening here You're just pushing stuff around and nothing is ever going to be
You're-
healed
You're
there.
upset, and you're upset, so then.
Yeah.
So it's such a relief to know that it's not for the reason.
Well, it really, I
It
think,
would have been easier if it was, but.
right,
But
I-
then it
yeah.
keeps coming back. It keeps
correct.
Replay, like
Yes.
it's on replay over
Yes.
and over again.
And initially, I think it's very difficult to, well, not only to grasp that, but to then take on, okay, it's not about them. I projected that in them. But many people then turn it around and take that knife and they stab it in me. It's my fault, this character in the dream. And it's neither of these characters in the dream. Those are just puppets being operated by the belief system of separation. So again, we can't just settle for this frame of reference. We have to rise above where the cause is. And the Son of God is the cause of what takes place, because it's not what's happening in the bubble of the world. It's that a choice was made against reality, and then we travel down that road, the rabbit hole of insanity. And then we make nice within the hole and not realize that no matter what I do here, it's never going to solve the problem until we come to the cause, which is we did a detour into insanity, and reality lies here. Okay.
We have to be ever so.
Oh, yes.
How the ego will use
Oh,
the book,
everything.
this course.
Yeah, everything.
Really, the ego reads
Oh,
the book.
absolutely.
And you listen. Oh,
Absolutely.
you know, just let me, ask for help to help me do this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's very tricky.
Mhm.
Very, very tricky.
Well, you're
Turn
sitting
it over. I just turn it over. No, really, it's gonna turn me over before. Okay, we're gonna turn over.
You can put the car in front of you accidentally, by going 5 miles an hour. And it's not your fault, it's not their fault. It's all fault, is it? I think
But
that's-
think about, why do we even
We're
need
looking
the
for a
concept
fault.
of a fault?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's just
I mean,
That's just how it is. They used to have no fault, well, no fault.
Right, insurance or
You'd
whatever.
be making it, right? You'd be making that happen.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to,
yeah.
you have to look at, go, okay, if it's not, it's kind of like a little, like you have to take your magnifying glass, over. If it's not their fault, and it's not my fault, what's going on?
Good point. And again, Jesus, basically, there's a line where Jesus says, literally take everything in the world and bring it to me. You don't know what any of it means. He even talks in that one workbook lesson of, medicine and things we do with our bodies and all the things that we've accepted as reality. He's asking us to question. None of them are real. None of them are based on reality. They're based on the storyline of the bubble. And within the bubble, boy, we can get scientists, we can get everybody to agree with and perpetuate this concept, but none of it's real. So do you want to play in the unreality and prove it and get justification for it? Or do you want to go where truth lies? And it really is that black and white. If you're a black and white person, this is a good time to apply black and white, okay? And it talks about there's no hierarchy of illusions. If it's an illusion, it's an illusion, it's an illusion. Big, small, in between, all the same. Did you have something, Barbara?
So
Read it.
basically, nothing here is reality. The only reality is oneness. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct.
Because when you say reality, it's not here,
Correct.
and it's a capital.
Yes, but we have to begin with where we are. We can say those words. That is absolutely top of the mountain, absolutely correct.
That's what it means.
Yes, but if I sit in my chair as a very identified, dualistic, totally engaged in my ego person and say, none of this is real, it's only an illusion. I can sit in that chair for a very, very, very long time and nothing will ever get healed.
Well, sometimes like Harvey always says, I'm never upset for the reason I think, and then I tell myself, I'm upset because I think this is real.
Mhm.
So Holy Spirit.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That'll work. Yeah.
I got
And-
an example of that. So I'm getting my driveway done from Cleveland Heights to O'Banion.
Oh, good old Cleveland Heights. They're good.
And down, I'm thinking, I'm gonna be down one of these trees around here. No, I don't need to do the driveway. All right, so I call Andrea, fix your driveway. She does fix your driveway. So, so what happened was, they said like 7 days. And then I forgot that they were contract.
Right.
And then finally they set a date, we're coming 6:30 in the morning, Thursday. That's Thursday. So I get up at 6, go for a walk, go for this, I come back, there's nobody in the driveway. So I sit down there and what's going on? As I'm walking, before I got back, I'm walking, it's not gonna work, what are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. It's just like noise. And then I just stopped and said, you know what, why do I need this noise? I can have peace instead of this. If they come, they don't come, it's fine.
Yep.
So, but then I got home and they wanted to drive it back again on the, the
Walk.
gravel wheel.
Yep.
And, 2 hours later, they showed up. The guy says, well, we can't make noise until 8 o'clock.
Oh, right.
And so,
Well,
it was
it's
pretty that
6 o'clock, you know, whoever, neighbors.
we have somebody who does the driveway lawn, everybody else's lawn at 6 o'clock.
Oh, really? Oh, bad
But anyway,
people,
raise-
bad.
But anyway, I just noticed how I created my own hell.
Yeah.
I may blame
Yes,
these people.
yep.
It's just, I created my own hell and I chose to get out of it.
Yep.
It wasn't, I
Yep.
don't know why I chose to get out of it, but I did.
I went to see,
Right.
It's all
it must have been Saturday, Friday.
right.
Yep. But I think we'll catch those moments where all of a sudden you'll realize my mind is just turning like a crazy person. And then you'll just stop and go, wait, do I really want to go down that road? But until we get to that point, we do have to continue to practice bringing it back as quickly as we can. But we'll catch it more and more frequently because it's like we can't tolerate the insanity as much any longer.
Right.
This too shall pass.
Lesson 34, I can see peace instead of this.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm, mhm. All right, guys.
And they did show up, so.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
There's no order, it's so difficult.
No, true. Yep.
My friend Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Was a miracle group, everybody.
Can you speak up just a little bit because I'm taping this?
And accepting that the guy's not in your driveway. I just have to be vigilant, you know, but in some ways, there's like people who does things that affect the doorstep.
Yep.
You know.
Exactly. But understand that's coming because we're so addicted to grief. We literally live and breathe on grief and irritation and upset that we're not consciously aware of. And we don't really want that piece because that piece represents there's no me. So I love all that stuff, even though I can say as Marianne, I hate that stuff. The fact is, that's what's running the show because I'm too afraid of that connection.
That lesson 185 that says that you have to know what you're letting go of before you let go.
That's right.
And
Yep.
It's that grief that, it's fear too.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
I think that, I don't think any of us are not, you know, you're certainly not vigilant on purpose.
Right. But that's because of the addiction to this experience. And we've been doing this since the Big Bang. Of course, that we don't know we're doing this to ourselves. But Jesus is saying we are doing this to ourselves via that choice, of which now we can make a different choice. But before I didn't even know, that just churned and was upset or irritated or, out of shape or whatever it was all the time.
And the setup is designed to continue.
Exactly. And I love the word setup because it literally is a setup that we did to continue to perpetuate this because we didn't want to go back home because we were afraid of going back home. And Jesus says, well, wait a minute, guys, let me give you some tips on how we can do that now.
And it's terrifying, let it go, but we.
And these shows you-
Oh, gosh, yes,
You know, it's
right.
not, you know, we want it to be peaceful and blah, blah.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, you could just have somebody do something right for you once.
But see, on one level, we don't want anybody.
I'm at 6:30 like they say, because what I mean, there's always,
Because you want to put your guilt on.
but there's always dichotomy in your mind. And then, so then what happens is you actually plan, you plan for people to be, to not be there. That is what has us by the throat.
Yep.
And you think about it, it's just the driveway.
Yep.
It's
Right.
just my figure, I mean, so that, you know, it's just it's the woodpecker.
Yep.
It's not any of those things.
Right, but understand, we want it that way because we want to stay here. Because we're afraid of this. So on one level, I, as Mary Ann, would say, I don't like that irritation. I don't like that doctor's report. I don't like this. But on some level, I cherish the fact that I have my perpetrators, my irritants that come and show me their face.
When you want, I mean, don't you let go of some of that? when you
Yes.
miss?
Yes, absolutely. There's even a line that says there's a limit to how much pain we can tolerate.
That's what you're saying is we're never gonna. let go.
Oh, no. Yes. But now we have an awareness of what the problem is. And Jesus is trying to make that real clear. This is the problem. The problem isn't this, it's the choice for this. But I'm telling you this, so when you get to the point where something here upsets you, you go, oh, wait a minute, this isn't the problem, this is. And then we can align with truth. Yeah.
Because some will upset me for sure.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
just like to, and it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be able to say, not my monkey, not my circus. And people are gonna do what they're gonna do.
Right.
And I'm not gonna get involved.
Right.
But then there are certain things in me that can really.
Trigger.
So
Absolutely.
it's like, I don't get triggered as by every same thing, but I still.
Yep.
Have my trigger points.
Absolutely.
Where I can just, and I will see myself for days not being upset, but.
Yep.
But more, but not as bad as what it was.
Yeah,
And
yep.
so I wanted clarification, because I thought what you were saying was we were never.
No. This is a course that's saying, this is the problem. You set it up, but we do have another way. Come on, follow the terrain over here and we can find healing and connection. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. All right, we are going to get started and we're still in the Song of Prayer, which most of you probably don't have, so I'll just read through it. Okay, so we were talking about this idea of what true prayer was versus the normal form of prayer. All right, so also in the same way in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them and let them go into God's hands. So he's suggesting, instead of, I think I need this, to recognize, I really don't know what the answer is. I know I'm not at peace. Help me to see it through your eyes. There they become your gifts to him, for they tell him that you would have no gods before him, no love but his. And I can remember as a child growing up in the Catholic Church, they would talk about idols, and they talked about when Moses went up on the mountain and then, you know, he found everybody in the town making the golden calf or whatever, and they were, you know, had that as an idol. And after coming to the course, it was like, oh my gosh, everything is an idol in the world that we're not giving completely to God. So we have, again, lots and lots of places to practice, because, you know, if God is number one and the rest of it is a replacement for God, then aligning with God is the only answer. What could his answer be but your remembrance of him? Well, if I'm in the world and I believe I'm a body and I think I'm important and everything is around me that's valuable and whatnot, what I think is important is what God can do for me. make my world a better place. And he's saying, you know, as you progress up that ladder, you'll come to want only that. And at the same time, in the progression of that, you will still be coming from the body. That's normal. We're still very addicted to the body. And as we said before the break, you know, we're still very much intact with the body. But as we continue along, our true prayer will be, show me who I am. And that will be the end of the specifics that we normally go through.
But you can't just jump to that.
No, start with where you are. And if you believe you need something or don't need something in your life, by all means, start with that. But the eventual, you know, top of the ladder is, I don't know, show me who I am.
I guess too, as you don't get the things that you keep on. your
Well, yes,
bucket list for Jesus, When you start, to go, oh.
maybe
yeah,
there's
I don't know
another
what
thing
this
to
is.
look for.
I don't
Yeah,
know what this is about, what could be. And it gets more complicated the longer you work at it.
yeah,
It's another more complicated idea. Oh, how is this?
And even with the organized religion, people are always praying
oh, yeah,
what they want, what they need, and please help this child. And
Yep.
would you please pray for this person?
Yep.
Right. Doesn't anybody ever stop and think that?
it's not working too
tell
well.
God what he has to do?
Yep.
And
What's insane about that? You
Yeah.
can't really mess with people and what they pray for. They
Right.
Pray.
no, you can't, but how do you be kind to people that say, how could he let this person die? There's so many other
Yeah.
people that are more deserving.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm speechless, sort of.
Well, no matter what the outcome, the answer always is, follows God.
Yes,
You pray for them to get better or not, that's, they
Right.
do, it's fine. That
Yeah.
explains
You
everything.
know, they were a better person, he needed them with him.
yeah, right.
People don't realize the insanity of all that.
And
Yes.
again, the Pharisees would say, oh, it's just a mystery.
Yes,
It was all the time, they couldn't explain them. It just wasn't good.
I was young when I said, no, sister.
yeah, that's not working,
That's
right?
not true.
Right, yeah,
And
but-
once I did question somebody, they said they wanted us all to pray, this was
Right.
last year.
Yep.
In a Buddhist group, they said, well, we want you to pray for so-and-so, her son has this, and he's having an operation. And, so the woman who that's supposed to said, well, this is like wise hope. Like, isn't that just another fancy way of saying I have expectations and then I demand that?
Sure.
satisfied?
sure,
And so we don't have any children who have been at risk, I said,
right.
pardon me.
Yes, I have, right? Yeah.
Or you could say, I'll pray for him.
Well, yes, you do the loving thing in the world, but you don't have to go into detail of explaining to them, you know, you go to your right
Yeah.
mind and give it over to the Holy Spirit. And I remember,
God tells you that
right,
your job-
right, exactly,
I think that's the real.
right,
How you don't get involved, how you
right, yeah,
let it go to God.
Yeah.
Where is that going?
Yeah.
But it just, otherwise it stays here, like, so you're worried about, kind of like the thing you said about the forgiveness, like you're praying for something specific. But you have an idea what it is, it's your judgment about the outcome that is controlling it all, and you just want them to get better.
Right.
And people that die, you don't really know what that's for.
right.
Or do you create that for your own lesson?
Absolutely, exactly. Again, I don't know what I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the answer is. Exactly. Yes, yes,
Want things.
yes,
I'm wanting it out of the ego perception,
yes,
which is why it's
right.
in the Bible it says, put God purpose.
exactly. And if you look from this perspective, we're praying to make the person not die. Okay, this is praying to recognizing there is no death. It's quite a significant shift from one to the other. One of us is much more important in my value, right?
If somebody about that, you gotta.
Well, no, and this is, right,
You
yeah.
said that's gotta-
No, oh, heck no.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is you, right.
Talked about being normal.
Yes,
You don't go to a funeral and say, don't you know body's not real?
Right.
You know, you just do and say what you know, you think it's gonna be the kindest thing for that person,
Correct.
you're the only one that needs to get it. You
Right.
know, if I think you need to get it, I need to get
Yes,
Exactly.
definitely. Yes.
Sometimes you call up a person so you can get it.
Well,
it.
probably so.
They're the people,
Yes. And
your people, they're the.
And think of this as what is the most loving response to that person, okay? So as Rose was saying, if you go into a funeral parlor and tell the person's not really dead, that's probably not the most loving thing to do, okay? Now, you might know that unequivocally within you, but why do you have to share it? Yeah. And I remember Ken told the story that his mother-in-law lived with them for a while. And the mother-in-law didn't know what he was teaching, but knew he was spiritual, and she honored that. And she would get headaches and ask him to lay hands on her, and he did it. He knew it wasn't what it was, but he knew that was important to her. And I think we sometimes get so caught up in the words of the course, we forget to be normal, and we forget to be the most loving we can under the circumstances as well.
I think at first you're very desperate to.
Well, of
Desperate
course.
to get the idea.
Yeah.
You know, get mind all your P's and Q's with the course, just like how you learn everything else, you know, how to
Yep.
do math and science and things, so. that's
Absolutely.
The first thing that happens, you want to get it right, you want to be done with, be done with it in 6 months and, be able to have a lot of fun then.
Yep. You had something.
I was gonna say, sometimes I think, what is said doesn't matter. It's
Oh,
how-
sure. It's the intent behind it. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Well, it's like what you say, Marianne, it's not what you do, it's who you take with you.
Correct.
So holding the hand of Jesus, you're gonna ask you're gonna be whatever situation it is. There's a lot of crappy situations that you're in, it doesn't matter. So it's better to have Jesus with you if you can.
Yeah.
I guess if you could kind of extrapolate, like I think it's a big jump for people to know how that.
And everybody has their own little
Way, right?
way, you know, I
Sure.
read recently somewhere in the course about. I walk beside you with my word in your heart, that really struck me. You know, I said,
Yeah.
good. And who walks beside you
That's a
with
good,
your word in
Right.
my heart?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
if I really believe that,
And there's the telling, do I really believe it? Yeah.
The other thing is about special relationships, I might have a special relationship with my mother, and she asked me to pray. I do pray, somebody asked me to pray today, actually, I did pray, but I say in my mind, this or what is better, I don't know
right,
what the
Absolutely.
circumstance is gonna be, and the special relationship chapters, or conversation in the course, really helped me because it reminds me, I don't really see anybody as they are. They
Nope.
don't see me
Nope.
as they are.
No, no,
So
no.
why, and I think they see the situation as it is.
Right. And ultimately, the whole concept of the special relationship is our relationship with God. And when we're aligned with God, we will see ourselves and our brother differently. It's not that one person that I take home with me every night. It's literally my relationship with everything in the world. Yeah. All right, so that last line that we left off at, it says, there they become your gifts to him, and they tell him that you would have no gods before him, no love but his. So when we're really aligned with that connection with God above and beyond everything else, that's going to be the result. What could his answer be but your remembrance of him? And then this is a cute little line. Can this be traded for a bit of trifling advice about a problem of an instant's duration? So he's basically saying, he understands where we're coming from. We want the answer to my specific problem, but ultimately compared to everything, is that really where you want to put your eggs, I guess you could say. God answers only for eternity, but still a little answers are contained in this. And I think a couple of weeks ago, somebody told the story about the idea of when you really ask for this, you get everything. If you just ask for the specific, you might get the specific, but you won't get everything. Yeah. So prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. It should not be confused with supplication of any kind because it is a way of remembering your holiness. Why should holiness entreat being fully entitled to everything love has to offer? It is to, wait a minute, and it is to love you. I must have skipped something. Love you, go in prayer. Prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There is nothing to ask because there is nothing left to want. That nothingness becomes the altar of God. It disappears in him. So again, if you're asking for any specifics in the world, you want the bubble to get fixed. And when you drop the bubble and you align with truth, then you're going to get all the answers and the whole connection with the truth of who you are. Then you'll see your brother is the same. All healing will take place there.
But we also go straight to that where we want something. That's
Well,
not like
we're going to go back and
the-
forth.
the-
Yeah, for
the
sure.
gut Level response to not something happening is to wish that it wasn't there.
Yes.
You're taking that to use and asking the Holy Spirit to use that stuff
Right.
for a different purpose.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you have to acknowledge that.
Right.
that's
Right.
All of a sudden, well, okay, we're gonna pray for that. Wow,
And the course specifically states the idea of, when we chose for separation, we set this up so that my brother would be the problem or a situation, an incident, whatever in the world, something in the world would be the focal point that makes me legitimately an innocent victim so I can attack and hate and whatnot. And when we stop the flow of that, then the answer is very clear. I'm done with looking for specifics because I've dropped the whole problem.
it becomes like a flashpoint.
Yeah.
Where you learn that
Yes.
from all the things that you're.
So I'm going to read the first line, couple lines again. Prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. It should not be confused with supplication of any kind because it is a way of remembering. So when we really get to the point where we're willing to just close the mind of whatever situations are seemingly are yowling at your door because sometimes they come in hot and heavy, and yet can I at that moment bring my mind to that stillness and that quiet? And think about this just in a general level. If you're in a very chaotic mindset, do you think your response to anything will come from a peaceful place? Not likely. And even if you attempt to come to a more stilled place and you haven't fully accomplished that, even your intent to come from that place instead of the chaotic place will make a big difference.
And some people are frightened of that space.
Well, and there's where the real problem comes in, Andrea.
They're frightened
Yes,
of that space where it's.
Yes.
all quiet.
yes. So Jesus in this section goes on to say, this is not a level of prayer that everyone can attain as yet. And I love how he so often tells us exactly where we are, knowing, I know you're not there. Of course you're not. You've been living over here since the Big Bang, and this is running the show. How could you possibly be ready for this? But don't discount the value that it's there when you're ready for it. Those who have not reached it still need your help in prayer because their asking is not yet based on acceptance. And there's a line in the course where it says, when two people are involved in a situation, whichever one is more healed is the one that has the opportunity to choose for healing, because the other person doesn't even know there's a problem or know how to fix it. So if you're at a place in your life, and I certainly went through it for a while, where it just felt like, well, I'm the one that's got to do this all the time, for heaven's sake. You get kind of weary with that. But if you look at it through that lens of, they don't even have that as an option yet because that's not where they're coming from. Then if you're, that would be a good time to be the bigger man and be willing to offer prayer. Oh, definitely, because you're the example there. You're not the pound them over the head with the blue book person. You're showing them that they can be loved. Yeah.
You're actually
Yeah.
showing them love.
Yeah.
You're loving them.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
everybody learns. Children learn something.
Right.
Through their
Right.
parents loving them.
Correct. Yeah. And we so often talk about the concepts of the course in relationship to me and the course. We don't get, or we don't go that far, maybe it's a better way of thinking of it, that literally what's being talked about in the course applies to every single person on the planet. We're all walking wounded because we're living in a world of wound. And we're operating the best we know how under the context of what we have to work with. And if I'm in the world believing it's real and somebody attacks me, I'm going to attack them back. And I'm going to feel justified to do it. And I'm going to feel like, yay, I won another one. But then the guilt will pop in and then you'll feel bad that you did it and all that kind of stuff.
Think
So
about it the rest.
yeah, and then you recycle it. Yeah, yeah. But this is the real way out where that will start, think about this as a balloon. And every time we ask for help, we're poking a hole in the balloon and the balloon is not looking so good anymore. Yeah. And this balloon is being fed every time you poke a hole in that one. All right. Help in prayer does not mean that another mediates between you and God, but it does mean that another stands beside you and helps to raise you up to him. So again, even in the prayer that this is talking about, this is not Mary Ann's prayer. This is a prayer of Holy Spirit, show me. Just like you were saying, Zita, that you didn't pray for somebody to get healed in the way you think they should be healed. You're asking that they be healed in whatever way is best for them. And I remember years ago, my husband and I went to Silva Mind Control, and in that program, they did a lot of distance healing and different things. And the lady next door was very, very sick, and I'm praying to have her be healed. This lady was real ornery. She was a nice gal, but real ornery. And man, I felt her energy come right back to me. And it was like, oh my gosh, she doesn't want to heal. She's ready to get out of here. And I'm praying for her to, stay a little longer. And it was such a powerful classroom for me because that really told me none of my business what the outcome is, but I can pray that they find their way through their own prayer. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Out were in the house.
Right.
Victoria House by themselves, she didn't really want her to go, she was ready for her to go. She was the only relative that she really felt supported, and I felt supported her.
Yeah.
And then one day, Andrea and I prayed,
Nah.
grandmother called the next day.
Wow. Yeah. And be very, very aware that oftentimes when people are praying, it is not for that person. It's for what I get out of having that person there, which is not particularly loving either. And if you're really praying for them to complete whatever they need to do to move on, it's a whole different experience. Yeah.
Prayer chaplain, somebody would come in with an issue, we were taught to have them tell their issue and then take it to God. Just use like little steps, like there was no thing like, I would just say the words, I asked God to be with us. And then they would have poured their heart out, and then all of a sudden I would start saying things that would somehow loosen the whole room.
Mm.
So one woman was really upset. Her mother was far away and she had to do this and she had to do that. And the words came through that her mother was, that God was caring for her mother, that her mother had, ideas. Her mother had a trajectory in her life. And somehow, and then when I finished doing that, then, so that about, 6 months later, so I could tell it visibly, and just like everyone kind of took a breath and relaxed and just what that open space. So you know, God is here and how, you know, he's gonna, take care of everyone. And so about 6 months later, her mother had moved with her and she brought her mother to church. So that was a very interesting, transference of energy. This was like, so, because the person's all balled up in what they want to happen and how scared they are. And then somehow when God or the idea of God enters and you can relax with it, then it opens up and then all the possibilities become
Right.
become clear, which that isn't happening while you're holding on to something. And I would say that
Yes.
most of the people would come in there with an issue,
Oh, of
holding
course.
on to something.
Yes,
And
yes.
then we would together, you know, I never had anybody run out of there screaming or anything. So, you know, together, we would just ask the power to be, spirit to be with us.
Right.
And then things would come through that way.
Actually, if you've watched the movie Jacob's Ladder,
I have.
at the end of the movie, they say one line from philosopher Hegel.
Hmm.
And he says, you know, when you die, if you're holding on to life, you'll see demons taking away your life. And if you let go, you'll see angels setting you free.
Yeah. But that's true with the course as well. It would say, if you know, because so many people think, well, when I die, everything's going to be wonderful. But what the course is saying, if you die, and this is the thought system you're identified with, you simply will take the coat off of the character called Mary Ann, but the consciousness of this will be who you are. Just like if you're over here and you physically die, this is what the consciousness you'll take with you because this is what you are. Totally different though. Yeah. Get to work, guys. Don't think, you know, the pearly whites are going to be waiting for you. And it's not like, that makes it sound like I'm bad, but it's not bad. It's simply the thought system you're choosing to adhere to, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, is running the show. And the show of duality is a show of duality. It can't be anything different than the show of duality. Just like when you align with oneness, the show is oneness, and that will be the results of everything that you encounter. And Jenny just said a little while ago, when you're choosing this part of your mind, it's going to project, or excuse me, extend, the course uses that word, extend into the world. You will automatically be teaching the presence of that love because you are that love. Just like when you're aligned with the ego, you can't help but project guilt, sin, and fear in the world. It's an automatic no-brainer. So don't feel bad as Mary Ann if you realize that's what you're doing. But do something about it when you have the wherewithal to do something about it. Because the ego would love nothing more for you than to feel bad. Because when you're feeling bad, guess where you are? You're playing in the arena of the ego once again. And as Tashara said earlier in the meeting, the ego will use absolutely anything it possibly can conjure up to keep you over here. And that's what we've paid it to do. It's not like the ego is this entity outside of us that's waiting to smack us around. This is what we've asked for by having chosen for this thought system. We've chosen a thought system of kill or be killed, separation, you name it, all the attributes of the ego.
As long as I think the choice for the ego is wrong or bad,
Yep.
I'm stuck in the ego
Yeah.
thought system.
Because it really is, you know, we blame it all on the ego. The ego's bad, the ego's this, the ego's that. The only choice is, do I want to choose for the ego or do I want to choose for the Holy Spirit? And if I'm choosing for the ego and then feeling bad because I chose for the ego, I'm choosing for the ego. All I need to do is stop and go, nope, choosing for this. Thank you very much. This has been fun, but had about enough.
I think that the ego was created to keep you safe, and to keep you alive.
As an
As a
ego,
individual
yes.
body.
Yes, ma'am.
So the ego's all about the body and keeping you safe and separate. But
Absolutely
if you
correct.
realize that you're already safe and you're already, you know, you don't have to feel like you have to protect yourself,
Correct.
then you're able to, or defend yourself,
Correct.
then
Yes.
you're able to open up.
Yes.
The ego navigates.
When I read that.
Yeah,
the ego
that's
navigates
beautiful. Yeah.
duality.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, but again, don't make the ego the bad guy. The ego is what the ego is, it's just like a lion, it snaps the head off its prey. It's just, that's what lions do.
And probably back in the days of prehistoric, when you were being chased by a dinosaur. The
Absolutely.
ego came in handy. 'cause
Oh,
you guys
gosh.
were safe,
Yes, yeah,
but we don't have to worry about that now.
except for in our minds. Yeah.
We have a lot of
Question, I've been
Sure.
pondering for a few
Okay.
days. Okay, we have this, I have the structure of spirit and the mind and body, the one on top of each other.
Right.
Is the mind, according to the metaphysics, residing in the body?
No.
Or is it, no?
No,
Mind is.
Okay, the mind would be up here, the body is down here.
Okay.
And the course it doesn't use the word puppet, but it does talk about the hero of the dream. When you project into the body, you now believe you're the body.
I see. So where does the mind reside?
There is
There-
nowhere,
In,
Okay, same as spirit.
there's nowhere.
Over.
right,
I see.
right,
Okay,
right, right.
all right.
and the deal is you're either up here as the decision maker, or you're the character in the dream
Right.
called Larry. Well, the deal is, once we made that initial choice, we thought I was Larry. Nothing else existed. I'm in charge. And when you rise above the battleground, as the course says, and you observe the Larry in the dream of insanity, but you don't judge or attack it, you're up here. And that's where the change and the shift begins to occur.
But certainly a question for the people who are mentally challenged, that it appear that their mind isn't working, or maybe spirit, I don't know, but how do we explain this?
Well,
Brain isn't working.
Well,
right? So
for
the
one
body-
thing, you have to be cautious because you think they have a problem.
Okay.
They're most of, because I've worked with Special Olympics and special needs kids for 40 years. Most of them are much happier than normal people, for a lack of a better way to put it. First of all, so there may not be a problem that we think there is a problem. And
Okay.
it can be a classroom for the parents and siblings and people that have to work with that child to learn to love what we call a difference, when in truth, the difference isn't the way we think it is. So, yeah.
Just because we can't
Yeah.
communicate through words doesn't mean they don't have a mind. It
Absolutely.
doesn't mean that their
Yes.
mind doesn't operate.
Correct. And Ken would go Ken would go so far to say even a grain of salt has the capacity that we have of the mind, the split mind. A piece of sand.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Great. Yeah,
And,
that's
and,
nice.
and again, we're thinking in relationship to the character called me. This is literally everything within the illusion is dualistic.
I just want to make sure that I'm thinking this right. When I think of the brain, I think of the thing that just kind of moves the body and.
Right.
But to me, the mind is.
Beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but be very aware when it talks about mind, it's not talking about what scientists would call the mind or the brain. Yeah,
There's a good excerpt and the clarification terms.
right,
It talks about mind,
right.
Oh,
spirit.
in the book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the teacher's manual. Yeah.
Index kind of.
Like, no, it's in the teacher's manual. After the workbook lessons, there's the teacher's manual.
Yeah.
And there's, yeah,
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 it's really,
yeah. All right, so, but it says it does mean that another stands beside you and helps to rise you up to him. So again, Jesus is there all the time, but we have to be willing to call on him. Okay, so this is, I gave the example a couple of weeks ago. If you're really sick and, they have a morphine drip, you have to push the button if you want the morphine to come into your system. Well, if you want the morphine of God to come into your system, you're the one that has to push the button. Okay. All right. One who has realized the goodness of God prays without fear. Okay. Well, how many of us pray with fear? I pray that, God will fix me and I'll feel better and something will go away. But I don't really trust that he's going to do it. Okay. I'm just praying out of terror. All right. And one who prays without fear cannot but reach him. And be very aware that the dictionary that carries the word fear is over here. So if I'm aligned with this, of course I'm going to have fear. It's going to be a no-brainer. But as I begin to relinquish this and keep working on spending more time here, the attachment and the addiction to the belief system where the word fear exists starts to fall away. And it doesn't run the show anymore because this becomes more engaged.
You don't have to know what it's called to know that we don't.
No.
To ask for help.
No.
Yeah.
We don't need to know the details.
All of a sudden, I'm talking, but.
Yeah.
In my daily, doing things, I catch myself sometimes, sometimes those, exercises call for every hour.
Yes, yes.
So I set my timer every 20 minutes.
Right.
Sometimes when I'm anxious, somehow on that level again, and that alarm is like, come on,
Yep.
and not knowing the second thought that that's what will ease my anxiety rather than, oh, I gotta pray again,
Yeah. Yeah, but that's where we all have been or are, absolutely. But Ken used to say of that, which is exactly right on with most of us, is you smile at that and go, oh, I guess I don't really want the love of God more than anything else. And you don't beat yourself up, you don't hate yourself, you don't do any of that. And I'm going to pick on you a little. Ken would suggest not setting the alarm, because if this was really where you wanted to be, you wouldn't need an alarm to choose for God. Okay. And he would say, be very aware, we're trying to do the workbook lessons the same way we did church, which was, I'm supposed to do it this way. And if I don't do it this way, I'm a bad little Christian or of course a miracle student. And he would say, nobody's going to do the course lessons perfectly. But be aware, if in truth you really wanted God more than anything else, that would be highest on your memory. And I'm sure most of you have done workbook lessons where you read it in the morning and you think, oh my gosh, this is so delicious. Oh. And then you don't think about it for the rest of the day and you lay your head on the bed pillow and you think, oh my gosh, I didn't think about it once. But smile at that.
Pick up a lot of guilt on the way.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, the guilt is what keeps me from,
Yes.
come on,
Yes, yeah.
I don't look at it as, oh, wow, that's the beverage I need at this moment.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
beverage of love,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And we're being asked to look at how much we think and say we want this, but the proof of the pudding is not quite so much as I thought I did.
And really, for me, the real crux of this course is what forgiveness really is.
Right.
Is allowing myself to be upset wherever I am in the process.
Yes.
And not judge myself for it, because we're choosing the ego every second.
Yes.
Of every moment.
Yes.
Of every day. So it's not about becoming more peaceful and loving. It's about becoming more peaceful and loving with that part of me that likes that.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, the part of me that likes that is the character that got his way as being the creator or the maker of the false world. I'm in opposition to God, but I don't really care about that as long as I'm in charge. And as long as I want to be in charge, be right, attack my brother, whatever, I'm saying, yep, I'll take this. This is good. Thank you very much. I'll see you later, God. It sounds nice over there, but this is really what I want. And in workbook 23, it's got this little, very cute little 3-step process. And the first step is recognize this is what you want. If you deny that, and I'm an innocent victim of what just came to me, then you're not going to get to step 2 and 3, but recognizing, oh, that's how much I'm afraid of the love of God. And that's okay. And the more we can acknowledge it's okay, don't judge ourselves or attack ourselves, the less power this has. And you stop feeding it, it stops growing.
Because what from the course's perspective, and I mean, I don't believe that, obviously, but the choice for that isn't wrong or bad. It's nothing.
Yes,
No thing.
yes, yes. As this says, every week, something really happened. Over here, it says nothing happened.
And I was listening to Ken recently, and it just hit me on a different level. He said, nothing you do here means anything.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing I do here means anything. So
So,
Kind of hard to grasp. when-
it is, we're
When you
making,
learn.
again, we're making it up.
Yeah.
We're making it all up.
Yes, but again, if I believe it's real, I'm going to respond as though it's real, and I won't smile at it. I'll take it very seriously,
And
and it'll be
again,
painful. Yep.
and, just watch yourself do that if you can. And
Yep.
even if you can't,
Yeah.
again,
Yep.
have your ego attack, scream.
Yep.
I've been spending a lot of I've been doing a lot of screaming the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just noise,
so
right?
it's also okay, if it doesn't mean anything and nothing happened, it's also okay to stop.
Oh, yeah, right. It's not saying that you shouldn't stop.
Or just see yourself doing things,
Right,
okay.
Yep.
doing something else.
right,
Okay?
right.
Give me another point, thank you.
And you can go along and do the course for some time and everything seems to be like chop, chop, chop. I'm doing what it does. I'm at peace. And then you can get one of those and it can take you for a ride that just pulls you in the whirlwind, and you can be saying and doing everything that the course is asking you to do and you're still going down. But you're not really going down if even a teeny tiny part of your mind is holding on to, I know there's something else going on here than what I'm experiencing, but
Sometimes
it
it's fine.
doesn't
It's
feel
okay.
good. Well, eventually you come to that, but not at the beginning necessarily.
So,
I found this on Facebook. I found it very helpful. This was from a course group. And this guy is a longtime course student. Not that that means anything, but he says, doing the course, the miracle or forgiveness is very, very simple, difficult but simple. It involves not doing what the course says, but then not judging yourself for not doing it. Because the one that is aware of not judging is not the one doing the judgment.
Right, yeah. So again, you're here observing the character that isn't the character that's up here. So you want to spend as much time here because when you're here, you end the carpet of time. When you're here, you continue to unroll the carpet of time and make this real and reinforce it. So we want to spend as much time up here as possible
And the only thing that time is for is.
to undo it, right? Yes.
That's
Yeah.
why we're in. Heal the separation.
Fortunately, I think many of us can attest to the fact that the more you do it, the more you break those grounds
Right.
to really believe,
Yep.
invest in the belief that there is a higher
Absolutely.
awareness rather than
Yep.
The ego level. The more we do it, even time can show us that we're doing better.
Yeah, I agree. And even though you can do it for a really long time, you can have a dark night of the soul that pulls you in and you swear you haven't learned anything, although you have learned a great deal.
It may, yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm just saying, if those show up, don't throw the baby with the bathwater, because they're just challenging one more level of, are you going to completely trust no matter what goes on in the world?
And there's an explanation in the book for what you're going through. You'll find it and you'll go, oh, and then you'll read it.
And then you'll read it again.
You'll keep it with you for weeks.
Yep.
You know, that's your
Yep.
learning curve.
that's where you are with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
How deep it goes.
Yep.
And then it's a worthwhile
Yep.
occupation.
Definitely, yeah.
Even though you still don't get it, it's, I mean, I thought I would get it in Catholic Church. I thought I would
Yep,
get it at the
sure.
Stations of the Cross. I thought I did get it in silence for different periods. I did get it from instruction about how to ask for Jesus or how to ask for the power. But I didn't think it was really all that important. And that it wasn't really the way that the world was gonna help me figure it out. And when I got here, I said, oh, this is it. Hang on, this is, I had met people in the group who told me I talk too much. They said, you, and I thought, I don't care what you say. This is where the rubber meets the road, honey. And this is, you're not gonna pass the buck, not passing the buck anymore. This is it. So if they don't like it, well, I'm sorry. I had to work with that. I had to go with the book and work with that. And I go, this is it. There's nothing else out there that I've been looking a long time. And that's it. And that's how
Yep.
I just hang on with both hands and wait. And it's the only thing that works.
And the fact that it keeps bringing back the fundamental is that there is actual fruit.
Oh,
in
yeah,
every practice.
definitely, yes,
Peace, inner peace.
yes.
I heard of it before I came to this book.
Right.
And for sure, yeah, with starting from the very first lesson, I felt that in the
Yep.
bathroom at work,
Yep.
there's nowhere to go. I was in a cubicle situation. So do those 10 minutes or something, imagine what I see. It's not a table, this is not a lamp, so I'm not, but there is such a behind it. Wow, I'm onto something.
Yep.
Inner peace,
Yeah.
all these meaningless things, pretentious things, they're not anything. Anyway.
Yep.
My point is that there is every day when I pray and when I come to the course, there is a unmistakable healing inside, and the joy, the happiness that everybody can have, so long as you believe that unconditional love.
Yep.
Love, infinite.
Yep.
So anyway.
And I think, with the process of the course, learning the text and doing the workbook lessons, it keeps taking you to that place where you can have those moments more and more frequently, and the effects of that start to reflect in your life. Yep. All right, I think it is that time, so we will say our closing prayer. Everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds that you've created and which you love. Amen. All right, enjoy your week. Take him with you. Bye, everybody online.